I started posting the Muhammad Haque political poetry first online, and also I posted some on the now defunct Indymedia UK. The Indymedia UK site became completely contaminated and overtaken by racists and assorted trolls and morons. And so therefore it lost its way and became obviously defunct as it is defunct now. And the group that were kind of running it were completely secretive, and they had no idea about the local communities. Especially they tried to set up shop at two addresses in Tower Hamlets, and both places were very much within the new road where I had been based for a very long time. Now, the Indymedia lot never came across as being open or community-based or accountable or democratic in any way, shape, or form. So if any of them watching this would like to correct anything that they may think I'm saying, they're most welcome to give me the evidence contradicting what I've just said. As a result of the contamination, that Indymedia became completely unusable because the hatred that they were spewing and the racism and the corruption and the criminal kind of posts that they were posting demanded a diversionary engagement with them, which was counterproductive because that was not the purpose for posting creative campaigning items on it. So the political poetry became kind of interrupted by that. And the political poetry I devised by actively discouraging any assumption that the poetry bit meant rhyme. It didn't. So some of the comments that appeared after my posts suggested that I was not writing in rhyme. That was not the intention. Political poetry meant no rhymes, not necessarily. If any rhyme occurred, then that would be accidental or coincidental. So the political poetry that I'm going to kind of do here through this kind of channel is political. And it is poetry in the sense that it is shorter than a long essay, and it is written by combining most of the poetic kind of ironies and other brief, shorter kind of shorthand kind of statements. And the political poetry would be not dependent on being written or spoken in rhyme or rhymes. As again said, rhyme or rhymes, if it occurs or they occur, then that would be coincidental. And it would not be dependent on rhyme or rhymes. It would be a statement in my style, and it would be a statement based on my thoughts and my observations and my demands and my analysis and my diagnosis. For example, a political poetry or poem about the British political situation today would have necessarily satire and humor included in the depiction of the serial kind of dysfunctioning politicals that are in place in political offices, elected offices. And it would be pitting them, the lines would pit them against the reality and their pretensions. So the device is to actually shorten the statement without losing the meaning and the content and the substance, as compared to a long essay or long kind of demonstration in documentary form covering the same area but running into pages and pages, for example. And the idea would be to get across the political points without having to spend a lot of time. So let me just recall some of the ones that I can access that I posted years ago. And this is the so this is like so this is one that is dated the 27th of December 2005, and I posted it at 03:10 hours GMT on Tuesday the 27th of December 2005, and it's headed Extracts, which means that there were other parts either already written or were about to be written after this. At this point, I cannot trace the rest of it, but this is the bit that I can find. And it coincidentally has rhymes in it, but that is not the intention. Who took God's name the most in the past year, meaning to do so the least? Who mentioned fear of God the most when the last thing they thought of was anything at all to do with God? Who fought the will of God the most this past year, totally openly, and who defied the God-fearing the most brazenly? Who chose the moments and places of prayer to attack? Who gave excuses to violate, scare, and give heart attack to unknown numbers of devout souls crying to God daily? Who defied the divine wisdom, daring the believers daily? Who played with the fears of the unnamed faithful all over? Who told newer lies at people, scaring them to fall over themselves and to panic and to give up so much liberty? Who gave the liars any vote at all to lie, taking the liberty against people who had given so much effective consent under the previous regimes of lies? Who banned dissent against unjust laws and against even more unjust action? Who has decided that society has ended and no reaction against this scrapping of society and of thought will occur, and the next year will belong to the lying, ruling mocker? So that's the poem that I posted on Tuesday, the 27th of December 2005. Clearly, it was about the devout and the faithful, and it was coinciding with the kind of alleged Christmas kind of observation. And it was the hypocrisy and the lying by those God fearing that the question was. It was a collection of questions, but that's the thing. So it rhymes if you look at it. Who took God's name the most in the past year, meaning to do so the least? Who mentioned fear of God the most, when the last thing they thought of was anything at all to do with God? Who fought the will of God the most this past year totally openly? And who defied the God fearing the most brazenly? Who chose the moments and places of prayer to attack? Who gave excuses to violate, scare, and give heart attack to unknown numbers of devout souls crying to God daily? Who defied the divine wisdom, daring the believers daily? Who played with the fears of the unnamed faithful all over? Who told newer lies at people, scaring them to fall over themselves and to panic and to give up so much liberty? Who gave the liars any vote at all to lie, taking the liberty against people who had given so much effective consent under the previous regimes of lies? Who banned dissent against unjust laws and against even more unjust action? Who has decided that the society has ended and no reaction against this scrapping of society and of thought will occur, and the next year will belong to the lying, ruling mocker? So that coincidental rhyme of sorts. But essentially, this is a poem that is now 15 years, at least 15 years old, but it is absolutely true even today. So we're saying that to the current lot. And the question, the style, the kind of style that I created is the style of questioning. And I had written the Lines of Hunger from Bangladesh in 1991 in similarly questioning kind of mode and style and approach. And I think that that is a valid way to express in poetic way the anguish and the anger and the outrage that is justified and justifiable. So that is the one about the Christmas and Christian or religious kind of event, yeah? And this one was dated, it was dated the 3rd of February 2006. And this is an extract as well, 4 lines. And coincidentally, it is in rhyme, but that was not the main intention. And it says, I have been watching the propagandists again this morning. They have no shame, no remorse, can't be seen mourning the victims of their lies, fabrications, and dissembling craft. Even the highest standard of critical retort to them is daft. And there were several trolls trolling against that poem, and the trolls were totally out of their minds as usual. And this was a political poem, if I can find it. Yes. This is the one I told earlier in the previous edition. This is one of the ones that I wrote. Now, this is the one that I have actually updated, but it was not the original version. The original versions are beyond accessibility now. So it's the Muhammad political poetry, updated text of the Greed of Eid. That is the theme that I had been writing about. This theme conceived of during 1987 and 1993. Now that is the time I mentioned, 1987, when the ceiling in a Royal London Hospital owned property in New Road fell, nearly missing, narrowly missing, killing person or person sitting underneath. So it said this theme conceived of during 1987-93 in London E1 1HE UK. These texts are being written at 10:10 GMT on Sunday, the 19th of August 2012, Eid al-Fitr on 01 Shawwal 1433 AH. This post at 16:15 hours GMT, 19th of August 2012. So this is the following is the content. Eid should be shared. The joys of Eid spread across the population, regardless of status and faith. Just as a child, neglected and starved, is brought back to ordinary breath and life, on being found food and fed, the sight of such a state of such a child is beyond words, universally joyous. So the question starts, have you fed such a child this Eid? Have you inquired after the woman, hidden in indescribable misery, lacking food, even clothing, unknown even to those who once knew her, and to others who even once admired her, now reduced to multiplicity of denial, deprival? Where is she? You have no idea, indeed. So, what Eid are you celebrating today? You say that you pray to God for the privilege of allowing you the ability to observe the holy month of Ramadan that ended yesterday. That is your privilege and your right in faith to do. But did it occur to you that God would rather that you added some real concern for some really deprived neighbors? Who are your neighbors? You don't know your neighbors, and you spent almost the whole month of Ramadan asking for God's forgiveness and probably hoping that you were getting the forgiveness. You need to stop being so lazily hopeful. Look around, and you will see that in your neighborhood, there are some faces that are not smiling. In fact, those faces could not put on any expression that could amount to a smile. Even if they were told to smile, the souls whose faces those were are violated souls, violated the whole year round. So that is the bit, it ends there with a note in the bracket saying to be continued. So that's the greed of Eid, which is the selfishness of the person who had spent the whole month of Ramadan, as the poem said. There's another one. This one is from 2005, and I republished it in May 2013. So this is one, Muhammad Haque Political Poetry on the Poverty of Tony Blair. And that is dated the 15th of December 2005. And where did it, and it again, it has got an excerpts. And it starts, poverty of Tony Blair's empty facade fails to hide the decay, the destruction of the soul, the massive divide that the Blair servers of time have aided and abetted in creating cannot be made moral. Whoever has parroted the lies and aped the vacant grins or praised the sleek look cannot produce one single line of ethics. Blair so mistook the banal majority of seats that came his way that first May, that we, the sufferers of the spectacle, may have to one day recount in greater detail, feeling even more pain as we do, suffering ever deeper indignity as we struggle to come to. Just as the BBC yields the unraveling of the Paxo myth, which came to the fore on Tuesday, December the 13th, during Paxman's dedication at the feet of his master devil, at whose door Paxo had on the record vowed to reveal the phony interior of the tough Newsnight interviewer. So is the concept of truth coming apart, not as a survivor of the ongoing purge of honesty and ethics at the BBC. So, in keeping with the brazen cult of lying we daily see, the cult of worshipping at the professional altar of lies, the culture of lying built on the foundation of BBC lies, funded by money grabbed by force from subjects in the UK, perpetrating fictional democracy, hiding truth from the UK. Enough lying for many generations, time to tell the truth, would be the view if Blair UK were an imaginary Beirut. Enough lying for many generations, time to tell the truth, would be the view if Blair UK were an imaginary Beirut. Then all hell would have gotten loose on the tabloid pages, and the liars would have been forced to flee for outrages against values and traditions and standards we fought for, their villainy rating the severest levels as if never before had such breaches against decency been committed here. National vows would have been heard of, not done here. Yet there is no sign of any of that. Instead, they are hankering for more of blaring immorality, so much so that the alleged opposition is now an absurdity. The rot is here, no denying that. Now, you could easily, that is December, 15th of December 2005. So that's 15 years ago. 15 years on, the analysis of the BBC lying and the license fee robbery is absolutely spot on, as is the kind of outrage, lack of outrage as Boris Johnson's lying. So the time has passed, but the lying of the BBC and the Prime Minister incumbent has remained and is continuing and is perpetrated. And there is another political poem. It is dated when? This is the call for arming the UK police as uttered by Michael Wiener. is not a contribution to the alleged debate on the future of policing in this country. That was, when was this first published? This has to be 19th of November 2005. So this is about the debate about arming the police. And Michael Weiner was the one who, Muhammad Haque, political poetry on the morning after the shooting of a policewoman in Bradford, England. So that's the political topic that actually prompted this poem. Extracts. This is the extracts. The incident was a multiple tragedy. Compassionate souls mourn a tragedy, and add with this one others unsighted, losing their lives in wrongs unrighted. Mourn the loss of one police life, renew respect for all life, no strive. How many people in need of police protection in times of crisis and sheer desperation would have said yes to Michael Weiner, mixing up policing it with being a gunner? Especially so soon after the latest tragedy, no time to indulge in knee-jerk comedy, and flogging yet another deadly bestseller, Weiner deserves slot only when a truth teller. By all means, call for any genuine police change. Do so only with true evidence, justifying change. Turning the debate on policing into an excuse to push hidden agendas will only reduce it to another opportunistic abuse and ploy, denying people the say, and will destroy any scope for people to participate duly. The debate will have been killed unduly. So that is the extract, or those are the extracts from the poem that I wrote, posted at 10:24 hours GMT on Saturday, the 19th of November 2005. And here is another one about, this is Muhammad Haque Daily Ethical Commentary. It's not the political poetry, but it's an ethical commentary on Gordon Brown's UK. And that is, it says it is next. It's not on this particular item. So let's see if there is any other political poetry that comes up. And there is a question on 7th of May 2008 when I said, was the 11th of May 2008. And this is dated, under that is this one dated the 7th of May 2008. Is Boris being derailed, taken off course, and being pressed into pro-big business lying already? That was literally days after Boris Johnson got elected mayor in the name of London for the first time. So that was the question. 12 years ago, correctly asking if Boris Johnson was already being pocketed by big business. It's a matter of checking the facts. So I cannot say exactly when Johnson began writing for the Boris Graph. Whether it was after that or before that, that is the question that I have to check. It is not possible to remember that one because it's a minute detail. It cannot be something that would have been in the mind, in the memory. Now, the theme throughout these poems has been accountability, transparency, universality, rigor, and democracy, and fairness, and equity, and equality. There is a lot of articles and contents published during the last years of the Labour government, fronted by Gordon Brown. So what is this one? Published in 2013. And this very very accurate and very kind of prophetic. And this is the one that is not a poem, but it's a factual report, kind of referring to the attacks by racists on the Cat's House in September 2012. And this one was published, I think, twice. Once 1946 GMT on Saturday, the 6th of September 2014. And it says, racists carried out a series of attacks in Brick Lane 2 years ago, which continued on 2 years ago. Today, 6th of September 2012. The impact of the racist attack carried out with the collusion of Tower Hamlets Council. Remember the reference to the Tower Hamlets Council colluding the racist attacks in the earlier editions of the diagnosis of Fleet Street today, Thursday, the 17th of September 2020. So the impact of the racist attacks carried out with the collusion of Tower Hamlets Council is still being assessed within Tower Hamlets Council. Now that was a reference to the promise, false promise, but it wasn't before Livingstone was kicked out. Luthuroman was kicked out. He made a false promise, and this was written on the 6th of September 2014. So it's still during the incumbency of Luthuroman in the post of mayor. He wasn't kicked out yet. So the preliminary assessments of the costs of the racist criminals and wrongdoer attacks have exceeded £100 million. That was a very small amount, and that was a very small estimate. It is now estimated as being many times that. It's many hundreds of billions of pounds worth of damages. The racist criminals fronting the attacks and wrongdoing has already been exposed as a calculated liar who created an aggravated liability for Tower Hamlets Council by adding a defamatory statement aimed at the target of the racist wrongdoing and attacks on 2012. Tower Hamlets Council has apologized unreservedly and even made an offer of hundreds of pounds or of pounds. I have been sent an unreserved apology by Tower Hamlets Council for the lying assertion they repeated from that racist criminal. But both have been rejected by the claimant, that is myself, while the same racist criminal lying by the same racist liar has been included as part of the key evidence in a complaint against a solicitor based at the address in Brick Lane at the time of the racist attacks in August 2012. Now that solicitor was ordered by the legal ombudsman later to apologize to me for lying. He has yet to apologize. His name is Tariq Chaudhry, and he has not apologized. The legal ombudsman in their ruling have found in favor of the complainant and have ruled that the solicitor trading as a sole trader should apologize to the complainant. The above findings and the rulings constitute only the tip of the iceberg that is shifting in the direction of the racist criminal liar being thoroughly, comprehensively sued. Now, the racist criminal liar was aided and abetted by the criminal elements based in the same place, the Spitalfield Small Business Association. Now, the Spitalfield Small Business Association was one of the beneficiaries of the campaign against Crossrail whole plot. And so therefore, how was it that the criminals based in the Spitalfield Small Business Association even thought that they could mount an attack on the cat's house in the back of 160 and 170 Brick Lane? So these are some of the things that the political poetry covered and will cover, and the idea that these criminals were exempt from accountability was only, this picture was a picture of the demonstration, the Khoodeelaar campaign demonstration held against the Tower Armed Council on the 1st of March 2006. And this idea that the Spitalfields Small Business Association, which benefited enormously and beyond calculation from the campaign that I organized against the Crossrail hole, that these criminals still operating from Spitalfields Small Business Association could even conceivably conceive of attacking or aiding an attacker of the cat's house. This is the crux question. And in the course of the updating commentary and posts, I shall be examining the evidence of the behavior of Tower Armed Council in the context of the claims against these criminals and others. Here is the picture of this is the picture of K. Jordan that I took at Greater Rex Street, and this person, this person holding that leaflet, Khoodeelaar leaflet, she just appeared from nowhere as we were demonstrating one day at the corner of Brick Lane and Hanbury Street. I have never known this person. I had never known this person, and yet she appeared from nowhere and she picked up a leaflet and she was holding it. From the looks of her, it doesn't seem that she understood the leaflet or she could read the Bangladeshi language kind of name of the leaflet, and yet she did that. And I'm still surprised that she did that, because I had no idea who she was, where she came from, and I had not asked her to take part in this, but she did. And she had a male companion with her who rushed her off the kind of scene shortly after this. So she stayed there a few minutes, not very long. But it showed, for some reason, that the campaign that we ran against Crossrail, whole attack on Brick Lane, had a kind of general air or appearance about it that people like her, a stranger, total stranger, felt like supporting whatever we were doing in the street. And this one is the picture of me speaking at the demonstration, really outside the Mulberry Place on the 1st of March, 2006. That's the biggest and the most effective rally outside Mulberry Place that we held against the Tower Hamlets Council colluding with Crossrail. And what has happened after that campaign that successfully stopped the Crossrail hole, historically, is that the beneficiaries of the campaign, the immediate physical beneficiaries, were the Spitalfields Small Business Association and people whose houses were going to be demolished or destroyed as a result of the hole that we stopped. people whose shops are going to be demolished or sunk as a result of the hole that we stopped. So none of those other people did anything against the Khoodeelaar campaign, but the Spitalfields Housing Association, for some reason, decided to mount the attack that will last, in terms of impact and implication, last for a very long time. And that is why we shall be devoting many episodes of this broadcast to explaining and detailing, chapter and verse, what the criminals in control of the Spitalfields Small Business Association at the relevant time did and how they did it and what damage they have caused. And this will include, of course, the behavior of the various authorities, including the corrupt court system so far. And we shall be looking at the comparative kind of claims to campaigns made by various people in the community who do not even understand the meaning of campaigns. Now, these are the two faces that will feature very much in the details. The one on the top is Lutfur Rahman, and the one below is Alibor Chaudhry. And what that means is that Lutfur Rahman, despite the smile, appeared capable of being quite stupid and offensive in his behavior. For example, on the 13th, was it the 13th? On the date in September, let's say, it could be 6th or 7th of September, I think. So we are in September, 17th of September today. So we are in September in terms of going back on the various records. And I think on the 7th of September, there was a kind of rally in the Altavali Park in Whitechapel Road, London E1. And in that rally, there was a speaker, and the speaker wasn't anywhere near Tower Hamlets in 1978 when Altavali was murdered, nor had anyone heard of Lutfur Rahman in 78. I certainly hadn't heard of or seen him because he was a child in 1978. So that person who was a speaker and came from Essex, or he is from Essex, although he's resident in Tower Hamlets since, he admitted that he wasn't in Tower Hamlets in 78. I was there, and I am the main organizer, political organizer of the defense of the community against the racists, attacks and others following the murder of Altavali. I am the one who organized the meeting at the Grand Palace, and I am the one who stopped innocent white peoples being attacked. I stopped that because the angry mob wanted, or angry people present in the meeting at the Grand Palace wanted to take revenge by attacking innocent any white person. And I stopped that and I said, no way. I'm the one who produced the first ever statement from the community on British television in the month of May 1978. So all of these things I did in my own initiative. And this Lutfur Rahman was a child in 78, had no idea, no participation, nothing, no knowledge. And yet he ignored me standing in the Altavali Park, and he gave platform to Owen Jones and some other people. How ungrateful is Lutfur Rahman? How stupid and ungrateful and disrespectful to the whole community. So who guides Lutfur Rahman? Who are the pullers and pushers of Lutfur Rahman? And how did they, in that way, do any favors to the community? Why did they do it? And they knew who I was and what I had been doing and what I do. So why had they told Lutfur Rahman to ignore the community, ignore me, and ignore the truth from being told at that rally? It's not something that is incidental. This is central. This is central to the corruption and dishonesty and the criminality that Lutfur Rahman was put to. It was a criminal violation of the truth of the defense of the community in Tower Hamlets. And he did that within months of telling me on the 20th of September, again it's September, 20th of September 2012, in the basement of the Marcos restaurant, in front of Ali Bor Chaudhry, whose photograph I have just shown, and Mohammed Jubair, the chief reporter of the Channel S, that it was me, Muhammad Haque, not Lutfur Rahman, who should have been the mayor, who should have been the MP. And compared to Muhammad Haque, Lutfur Rahman was nothing. He said that. And months later, he ignores me at the Altavali Park and he invites Owen Jones. And Owen Jones puts his mobile in front of him and reads off the script. That is his speech. How dare Lutfur Rahman defile the community's history and action in that grotesque, corrupt, dishonest, ungrateful way? How dare he smile and do that? What community was he supporting? And we shall be reading some of this stuff that he read out. And people commented, and I have commented as well. Lutfur could not write those scripts that he delivered sometimes. So even though some other people wrote those for him, they were not good enough. They cannot be good enough because they are not truthful, they are not true, they are not related to the reality. It was all a fake. So Lutfur Rahman, being put in that position of elected mayor, was a multifarious disgrace. Was a multifarious disgrace against the community as a whole. That must never happen. That must never happen. Because it actually denies the whole community's existence. Owen Jones still doesn't know which way to take the tube or whatever to get to Tower Hamlets. I mean, even George Galloway didn't know. 18 months after getting elected MP for Bethnal Green and Bow, he didn't know which way to go from Brick Lane to Greater X Street. So Lutfur Rahman owes a big public apology to the whole community. And an apology must include an apology to me and to other people who have been defending the community. No shortcut, no scripted stupid smile. He owes an apology. And those who are still kind of fantasizing that he would be a candidate again must understand this. This comes first. Lutfur Rahman owes the whole community an open, unreserved, unconditional, detailed apology for disgracing the community's name, denying the community's name, and bringing the community into disrepute. And those so-called media that have been failing to report on the disgrace that Lutfur Rahman committed must apologize to the community for doing so. And Channel S, when Mahi Jalil apologizes to the Hindu community and does this and says he apologizes to them unreservedly for insulting them, does he realize how many more apologies he owes to the community? Mahi Jalil must start by apologizing for colluding with Lutfur Rahman, who disgraced the community, defamed the community, denied the community, lied against the community, and colluded with liars against the community, and allowed the theft and robbery of the community's world-class, unique, original resources to be stolen and robbed. Does Lutfur Rahman understand any of this? Does Alibor Chaudhary remember the conversations about this? So, this is not some kind of sidelining issue. This is the central issue about the whole existence of the Bangladeshis, politically and socially, in Tower Hamlets, and by extrapolation, by example, the Bangladeshi stand and the status and dignity in the rest of the UK and in the rest of the world outside of Bangladesh, because we defined, by defending the community in Brick Lane, in Tower Hamlets, we defined the whole Bangladeshi community's existence outside of Bangladesh. We created something like another Bangladesh outside of the country, as far as Bangladesh is concerned. So much so that one president, whatever the controversy about his partisan role or internal kind of disagreements about his role, one president of Bangladesh, during visit to the UK, was persuaded with my direction, he was persuaded to come and address the community from a Brick Lane space. It was my decision. I organized the whole thing so that Ziaur Rahman would come to speak to the Bangladeshis from Brick Lane and hold the Brick Lane signboard, street board up there, and name a street in Dhaka after Brick Lane. That is the extent of my work and my thought and my strategy to bring dignity to the community, to bring identity to the community outside of Bangladesh and in this country. And there comes Lutfur Rahman, and he says that he is the first and the most important symbol and celebrity and icon and whatever. And he is not. He is kicked out of the post by an election commissioner, whoever brought the petition. Lutfur Rahman is called a corrupt person. Now, compare that with the work that has been going on before and since to defend the community, to bring the community into reputation and to proper standing. This is part of the political poetry. This is part of the political commentary. This is part of the political reporting. And all of this is covered by the exclusive authoring rights that I assert. And this theme will be evidentially updated in due course.